NFL Week 4 player prop spreads, over-unders, teasers, and more coming your way. Yo, what's going on, everyone? This is Austin from Calling Our Shot, and I'm back to give you my best bets for Week 4 of the NFL season. We've been off to a fire start to the year, to say the least. 28-11 on straight bets, 12-6 on player props, 8-3 on spreads, 8-2 on over-unders. We've been on an absolute tear, and hopefully we're helping you make some money. Now, as for parlays, we're 4-5 on the year. We've lost our first same-game parlay last week by 7 Robert Woods yards. You hate to see that, but we're going to keep moving through. We cashed our touchdown parlay, the first one we've cashed this year. But smash that subscribe button. We just zoomed past 9,000 subscribers, closed in on 10,000, the big goal. We have some exciting opportunities coming our way for 10,000 subscribers, so make sure you click that subscribe button. And last but not least, if you want to show some more support, maybe we've been helping you make some money. Maybe you're like, I want to give back to these guys for doing all this research. Become a COS All-Star. Click the join button on the channel. It'll cost only $2.99 a month. Help show your support for all the research and the time we put into the videos. And you get some cool perks, some custom emojis that you get to use in the comment section, unlike anyone else. And we'll shout you out on our Week 4 video, or Week 5 video, and in our weekly podcast every Wednesday. So shout out to Ronaldo and Marcial, our newest COS All-Stars. But enough chitter chatter. Let's get into this. All time stamped. We got, per usual, 2 spreads, 2 over-unders, a teaser, and I got 4 player props coming your way in this video. And I have my touchdown money line and same game parlay video, like I said, released on Saturday. And I have some more player props and probably another spread or two that I like in that video. Don't want to make this one too long. Moving on, first spread. Biggest game of the week, in my opinion, Buccaneers -6.5, taking it -110 on MGM. If you're a Patriots fan, what do you do in this game? Who are you rooting for? Probably your Patriots, but would you be mad if Tom Brady came in and just absolutely smoked you? I don't think too bad. Tom Brady returning to New England, that's the biggest storyline dynasty he helped build over his long career with the New England Patriots. But now he gets his return. He gets trying to get some more revenge on Bill Belichick. I see the reports out there saying he still treated them like a 20-year-old, despite him being in the 40s. But I'm riding the Buccaneers for a couple reasons. For one, they're fired up. They just got absolutely boat raced last weekend against the Rams. And Brady, I'm excited to see him. He should be fired up in his return in Foxborough. And I'm excited to see those videos that he posts normally throughout the week and see what he does to get amped up. Now, two, like I said, they got embarrassed against the Rams, and their defense looked terrible. I think they bounce back this weekend. And that is why I am here. I think the Bucs defense is going to look much better. If you think about the Patriots offense, how do they succeed? They need to establish the run. Well, hello, here comes the Rams, or the Buccaneers defense, one of the best run-stuffing defenses in the NFL. The way you beat the Bucs is you have to take the top off the defense. You got to throw it deep. What has Mac Jones not been doing a lot of? Throwing it deep. He's just been throwing it short and dinking and dunking down the field. That will not work against the Bucs defense, and I think that's where they will struggle. You got Devin White and Levante David just waiting there to crack your head off, and that's exactly what they will do. You look at the Rams last week. They had Deshaun Jackson going deep. He was taking the top off the defense, and they succeeded and destroyed the Bucs defense. This week, I think the young fella, Mac Jones, is going to have a lot. He's going to have to prove the haters wrong, and he's got to prove me wrong. I'm going to need to see it to believe it. Predicting the big Bucs game, and this will be the game that I'll feature on my same game parlay on Saturday. But let's move on to another game, another spread. Taking Seattle, +3 versus the 49ers, -115 on FanDuel. I tried to warn people last week, and I told people Seattle was set up for failure. They were on the road in Minnesota, and they were playing against the Vikings, a team that was playing hungry, down, that was 0-2. They needed a win, and the spread suggested they were only 1.5-point favorites. Thought Seattle should be a bigger favorite. If it was a neutral field, it would have been about a 4.5, 5-point favorite, but since it was in Minnesota, they were obviously barely favored. And so they lost outright, and they didn't look good losing. Now, this week, to get the 49ers, a big game, big divisional matchup, and here's why I think the Seahawks have a good chance of picking, and that's why they were my upset of the week, and I think they got a good chance of winning this. Now, let's look at it. Seahawks, they're on the road, but this is their home away from home. They've absolutely lit up the 49ers in Levi Stadium since it's opened in 2014. They've won 6 of the 7 matchups they played since it opened back in 2014. And you look at it, their only loss coming in 2018, back in December, and they only lost by 3, so they still pushed the spread. As much as it pains 49ers fans to admit, Russell Wilson has owned them throughout the majority of his career, and I think he's going to own them again. This is a very even matchup on paper. I think both these teams are in the same stratosphere of talent-wise, but you look at it Sunday night. What did the 49ers do? They gave too much time to Aaron Rodgers on the field. Well, that wouldn't be the surprise to see that be the same case this week with Russell Wilson. He's in that same stratosphere QB. Give me the Seahawks +3. Got a couple other spreads I do like, but I'm going to just kind of pass those to Saturday's video because we're going to need to move on to some over-unders, which we are 8-2 on the year so far. First one we're starting with, Washington football team, Atlanta Falcons, taking the under 48 points, -110 on Barstool. As a side note, if these lines change a little bit, that's just kind of the nature of the game. That's how betting goes. This video is posted Thursday mornings, but you guys are still watching it on Sunday, so I appreciate you guys. But Washington's defense, as for this pick, they've looked brutal. They've looked brutal this week. You just kind of close your eyes. You're like, oh no, please, I do not want to watch that defense. And I understand that. The Giants lit them up in week 2. Then last week saw the Bills. They might have just scored another touchdown for all I know. But I believe that's the case. This over-under set at 48 points. They've seen that defense be bad. If the defense was what it should be, this over-under would be like 41.5, 42.5, and I think that's where it should be. And if you look at it, the Washington defense, they got to take things personal at some point. I mean, you see, you've been getting railed for 3 weeks. You just have not looked too good. And I think the people see them on social media saying, overrated this, overrated that. What are you doing, Chase Young? Offense is having great weeks. Daniel Jones is great, blah, 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 blah. Josh Allen got him back into MVP form. I think they've watched a lot of film this week. They have improved a lot this week. And this is the make it or break it. You got to show up. You've been bad for 3 weeks. You got to week 1, they weren't terrible against the Chargers, but you got to look better than this. You're playing the Atlanta Falcons, and I think they will look very good. Matt Ryan hasn't necessarily lit up the scoreboard, and neither really has Taylor Heineke. So even if, this is a grudge match, I'm fine with that. But Chase Young, step up, be a leader on this defense, make big plays, maybe force a turnover. That's fine with me. Taking the under 48 points. I think this is a low-scoring game, much lower scoring than Vegas anticipates. I'm locking in the under, 8-2 on spreads. Moving on to another spread, taking this Los Angeles Rams, taking their team total over 30.5 points, +100 on DraftKings. Now, the Rams defense looks great this season. Matthew Stafford, he's been cooking. He's in the MVP conversation. Congrats to him. They're averaging nearly 32 points per game, and they've hit this over in 2 of their 3 games. Now, more importantly, they've hit the over in those 2 games, both at home. They missed on the road, scored 27 points back in Indianapolis in week 2. Now, Sunday, they find themselves at home. Great. You love to see that against the Cardinals team. That does not scare me whatsoever. Here's some stats for you. The Rams have scored 31 or more points in 7 of their last 8 games versus Arizona. Based on that entire Sean McVay era, they've been scoring over 31 points. The only loss they didn't score 31 points and cash this bet was last year because they started John Wolford, who I think they found on LinkedIn or something along those lines. It's to be expected. You're not going to score 31 points with John Wolford. They were cashing this line with Jared Goff. I think they cashed it again with Matthew Stafford. He lights up the score. And you look at the Cardinals, they aren't necessarily a team that tries to pound the rocks. You just choose the clock, and then you get a couple more less possessions than you normally do. Cardinals, team that loves to run the ball, or loves to throw the ball, throw it deep, and they're going to go 3 and out pretty quick. If that happens, the Rams defense will get the ball back in favorable positions. I love this, love the game script. I think the Rams can get up to 34 points pretty easily, so I'm locking it in. And that's why I'm taking the Rams team total over. Moving on to a teaser. We've cashed 2 straight teasers. Teaser is Rams plus 0.5, and the Titans -2.5, -110. So we look at it, we cashed 2 of these in a row. So, and I normally count them as a spread for people like, where do you keep these on your records? I just put them in the spreads because these are 2 spreads that I'm always picking every week that I just want to lower the value on. Now, Rams at home, I've already talked about them a lot, and I would absolutely, and I feel like I didn't give the Cardinals a little, I'll talk about the Cardinals a little bit more. I love the Cardinals. I really hope they would win this game, but I just don't think they are. The Rams have looked way too good. And like I said, the Rams are at home. There's levels to this. I think the Cardinals, not as good as the Rams. You saw the Cardinals struggle last weekend against the Jaguars. And you got DeAndre Hopkins still banged up. It's going to be hard for them. Jalen Ramsey will just be shadowing DeAndre Hopkins. It's going to be hard for him. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see them kind of struggle to score points. And they might still score some points in the end of it, but I do think the Rams, they've won 8 straight games against the Cardinals. I think they make it 9 straight this weekend. As for the other leg, the Titans -2.5, well, simple one. They're playing the New York Jets, and that's about all you need to know. Now, I know, you got Julio Jones, A.J. Brown, both might not play, and maybe by the time you're watching this, you know exactly who's playing, but I don't think I have to tell you the Jets have not looked good. This is more of you got to prove it to me. I consider taking their team total under, which is probably like 3.5 points at this rate, but I won't take it. They got to prove it to earn my respect. They haven't scored a touchdown in 2 weeks. Yes, 2 weeks. They have not scored a touchdown. And while the Titans' defense isn't the best, I won't say that. They're not necessarily the Rams, or they're not the 85 Bears. But I do think, the Titans, they've got a good enough offense. They got Derrick Henry, and that should be enough to beat this Jets team. I don't know if they'll cover the 7.5 points, so don't just go putting your next paycheck on it. But I do think 2.5, fine by me. They should be able to win by a field goal, and I'm locking it in. Moving on to some player props. We got 4 of them coming your way, starting with Stephon Diggs. I'm taking his over 6.5 receptions, -120 on BetMGM. Now, Diggs, he hasn't been the reception fiend that people were looking for last year. He cashed basically I don't know his exact total, but he cashed his reception total in a lot of games last year. I think he only missed a couple, maybe 2 or 3, but he cashed in like 13 of 17 games, something ridiculous. So people came to this season like, heck yeah, I'm hammering is over. And receptions cash in. The Vegas in the sportsbook said, nope, give us the money back, and he hasn't cashed it. Now I think this is a big bounce back spot for Stefon Diggs. He's only hit this total in one game. That was week 1 with 9 receptions. Then in week 2, he only had 4. Last week, he finished on the hook with 6 receptions, but the targets have been there. 13, 8, and 10 targets in 3 weeks. Josh Allen, he's been trying to get the new face, Emmanuel Sanders, the ball. That's what he did all last week. But he's going to make sure everyone's happy. Everybody eats on this Bills offense. And you look at what the Texans defense does. They play 2 high safeties. They say, we ain't letting you beat us over the top. That's where Emmanuel Sanders and Gabe Davis, they run deep routes. Instead, they'll just leave the open crossing routes, and that's exactly where Stefon Diggs lives. You saw DJ Moore last week have a field day. 8 receptions, 126 yards. I think Stefon Diggs plays in that similar game plan and runs those same exact routes. I think Stefon Diggs in for a big week this week. This will be the last time you see a 6.5 reception prop for Stefon Diggs. Minus 125 only. Absolutely not. Locking it in. I think Stefon Diggs gets at least 7 receptions. Maybe even gets closer to double digits. I'm locking that one in as my first player prop of the week. Moving on to the second one, another stud, Travis Kelce. I'm taking his over 86.5 receiving yards, minus 1, or 84.5 receiving yards, minus 115 on DraftKings. Kelce, best tight end in the NFL. He's off to a great start to the NFL season. Does that surprise anyone on this channel? No. It's Travis Kelce. He's insane. But what isn't off to a great start? Kansas City Chiefs, not quietly, 1-2. And they're traveling to Philly to take on the Eagles, who just got spanked by the Cowboys. Now, you look at the Eagles, they just let Dalton Schultz, the tight end for the Cowboys, almost hit this over himself. He had 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. And no offense to Dalton Schultz, if you're watching the video, I respect you. You've looked really good over the last year and a couple games, and I hope you get really paid this offseason, but you're not Travis Kelce. I'm sorry. He's arguably one of the best tight ends. Not even arguably. He is one of the best tight ends to ever play in the NFL. And you look at it, he's cashed this over twice so far this season. The only time he missed was week 1. He only had 76 yards in week 1. Man, what did he even show up? The target tree is pretty narrow in Kansas City. It's either going to Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce. They obviously have McCole Hardman and Byron Pringle, and they got Josh Gordon now, so don't know if that will not play a role this week. Those guys get a couple looks a game, but all the targets are going to Kelce and Hill. You look at it, Kelce, as consistent as they come, 85 or more yards in 8 of his last 11 games. He's the Chiefs. And if you look at it in a must-win game, the Chiefs cannot afford to go down 1-3. Do you think they're going to go out there and run a bunch of trick plays, run Clyde Edwards-Helaire into the ground, run trick plays with new players? No, they're not going to do that. Going to stick to old reliable, what got them to the Super Bowl, what made them win Super Bowl in the past, and win a lot of playoff games, win games in general. That was Travis Kelce, and that's what they'll do. The number 1 tight end do for another big week in week 4, locking it in. Moving on to another stud running back, though, DeAndre Swift. I'm taking his over 33.5 receiving yards, minus 115. Now, wouldn't be surprised to see this line go up to like 39.5, maybe even into the 40s. But I love this line, and here's why. Swift done the clear number 1 back for the Detroit Lions. And in his 3 games so far this season, he had 65, 41, and 60 receiving yards. He's clear. They're targeting him out of the backfield, and the Bears can be exploited by running backs coming out of the backfield. You look at last week. Gave up 6 receptions and 74 yards to Kareem Hunt, and the Browns were winning that whole game. They never even trailed because the Bears didn't even score, or they scored 3 points or whatever it may be. They did not score a lot of points, so I like the Bears. The Bears give up a lot of receptions to running backs, and the Bears have struggled to tackle running backs too, giving up a lot of yards after contact. I think Swift should have a busy afternoon, regardless of game script, which I do not expect the Lions to just go out there and blow out the Bears, even though the Bears did not look good last week. But either way, Swift due 4 to 6 receptions. He should be able to get us 33.5 receiving yards. I like the number all the way up to like 40. I think you could even get into 50. If you want to take rushing plus receiving, don't mind it, but don't see a lot of value in the rushing yards. I'll take the receiving yards, 33.5, locking it in. Moving on to my last player prop of the week, Mike Gesicki. I'm going to take it as over 2.5 receptions, minus 140 on BetMGM. Who? Yeah, I know. Mike Gesicki. What the heck is this? I know this is a yucky prop line, but the line opened at minus 105, and people kept hammering it into the ground, and I'm not surprised if this line's at minus 175 by the time you're seeing this, or even 3.5. Don't be surprised by that, and I don't even mind it at 3.5 if you're taking it at plus value. Since week 1, the Dolphins, they didn't know Mike Gesicki was on the roster, apparently. They didn't use him in week 1. Week 2, ended up with 3 receptions. Cash it. Week 3, Yeah, he did. I think he cashed it. Yeah, he had 10 receptions last week, and I know Jacoby Brissett was either throwing it 90 yards downfield to Will Fuller, incomplete, or he was dumping it off to Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki, and that's fine by me. This could be a first half casher for all I'm concerned. You look at Jacoby Brissett, love to target the tight ends. That's what he did with the Colts. And look at this. They're playing the Colts. He's returning. He targeted, Jack Doyle all of the time when he was there. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him continue to target Mike Gesicki. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett will start. They don't have much of a run game. They're going to need to throw the ball. And he targeted Gesicki a ton last week. 12 targets, 10 receptions. Gesicki was a target fiend. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Mike Gesicki have another good week. All we're asking is over 2.5 receptions. If you want to take it at 3.5, if it's plus value, hammer it, because I think it's a great line. Minus 140, I'm willing to lay that juice for a prop that I think she has a very, very good chance of hitting. This is Mike Gesicki. He's a talented guy, very good pass catcher. And I think the coaching staff, you're going to look at Jacoby Brissett and say, dog, you didn't complete any of those passes deep. I mean, maybe you got one penalty call, but you gotta take some shorter routes, and I think that's what they'll continue to do. Mike Gesicki they will not throw it as many times as they did last week, but it wouldn't surprise me to see the Dolphins trailing in this game. Colts do need a big win, so I do think the Colts will put up a good fight, and Mike Gesicki should be able to cash this over 2.5 receptions. That's why I'm locking it in. That's my last play of the week, but I have some more parlays video coming on Saturday, Logan's video coming up Friday, so make sure you check out all those videos for college football on Friday. We appreciate you guys. Become a COS All-Star today. Help us reach 10,000 subscribers. This has been Austin. Let's go make some money this weekend. Peace out.